It was just a boring offense last year. No creativity whatsoever. They couldn't push the ball downfield. Whatever Mac has given us here, it's like at the very least, we're more interested. We're more intrigued.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Mac Jones named the starter. Again, not a huge surprise. I think most beat reporters were pretty much kind of expecting that. But then Cam Newton getting released, I think that is a little bit of a surprise. You know, why not have a veteran quarterback back there that knows the system, kind of sort of backing up Mac Jones?
There was a lot of speculation about, you know, the fact that Cam Newton had like a mess up in the COVID protocol thing, or there was some confusion, and he's obviously not vaccinated. If that like went into their decision, but at the same time, there's also like an article, I think from June or July, that Brian Hoyer had said he's not going to get vaccinated either. So, you know, that was like completely kind of glossed over when they were talking about Cam Newton this morning. But
it's a good point.
Mean, that part of the availability, I mean, we know that Bill Belichick's big thing is availability, right? Like, obviously your ability to be available is going to be compromised if you're not vaccinated, especially if you're a backup quarterback, right? I do think, though, this changes the game, you know, for fantasy. Like I saw Ben Gretsch, who does a great Substack, Stealing Signals is a Substack that he writes. He noted that they were like one of the most like least pass heavy teams in terms of like what you would expect out of a team in the last like decade, basically, were the Patriots last year with Cam Newton. This is definitely going to be more of the type of offense that we were used to seeing from the Patriots under Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels, like that type of play calling. There's going to be multiple tight ends with Jonnu Smith, 3 receiver sets at times too, with Jakobi Meyers and Nelson Aguilar, and then whoever is that third receiver there. In the backfield too, like James White, he's going to get back to catching a bunch of passes too, probably. Damien Harris doesn't have to fight for goal line touches. I think this really changes the landscape for fantasy football in the Patriots, with the Patriots offense right now. And suddenly there might be some sneaky value with all these guys here.
I've been talking about Jakobi Meyers a lot really over the last few weeks. And this guy was somebody that was absolutely free in drafts not more than 3 weeks ago, not more than 2 weeks ago. His stock has absolutely exploded. And I tell you what, man, I blame us for this. You know what I'm saying? Like
I'll take some blame.
Who else was sounding this alarm? Who else was sounding this alarm except for us in Reception Perception talking about Jakobi Meyers? And right now we're seeing Jakobi Meyers right now just flying up ADP right now. He went from undrafted to now going in the top 10 rounds. I mean, that is wild to me. I mean, we're talking about a 60 spot ADP flip, man. Like that just doesn't happen this late in the season, especially for a player like Jakobi Meyers. You gotta think it's not like Mac Jones can move. You gotta think that there's going to be a lot more targets to wide receivers this year. And I think Jakobi Meyers rather, will see a huge benefit.
I kind of expected Mac Jones to win this job all along. I kind of ranked Jakobi Meyers. Like, by the way, I still think like 10th, 11th round, you're going to get him a lot cheaper than that in like home league drafts and stuff. As a matter of fact, like obviously I've been in a ton of drafts recently. I've still been getting Jakobi Meyers in like round 10 or 13, something like that. I still think all of that is fair. You know, somebody pointed out in the chat, I think Brooke pointed out in the chat that like, or Brokemine pointed out in the chat, I don't know if that's Brooke, whatever point is, like early best ball drafts, like that. This is why you want to draft early, folks, because you could get Jakobi Meyers legitimately in like the 17th round of best
18th
ball
round.
Yeah. 2 months ago. Yeah. He can push for that 11th, 10th round type of draft capital. And I still think that's fine because he checks so many boxes. By the way, like Mac Jones taking over kind of, I think they're going to use a lot of that RPO stuff that they did at Alabama. And think about the guys that just ate on like slants and digs on those plays. We know that is Jakobi Meyers' bread and butter based on his reception perception results. Again, 72% success rate versus man coverage. Guy's a good player. He's totally worth that draft capital. Now, as you mentioned with Damien Harris, I also kind of ranked Damien Harris as like running back 26 in the same tier of guys like Myles Gaskin, Kareem Hunt, guys who've been going several rounds ahead of Damien Harris all offseason. Because again, I expected Mac Jones to win this job. And like the biggest question, well, there's a couple questions with Damien Harris. Number one, I think one has been answered. Will he get access to goal line work? Yes, most likely he will probably get access to goal line work now that Cam Newton is out the door. James, I don't know where you stand on this one because obviously James White is going to play a role. He's going to play a pretty big role. He's going to lead the team in terms of the backfield in targets and receptions, stuff like that. But can Damien Harris be maybe a 30 catch back or something like that? Because that would really boost his weekly floor. And I think based on what he did in Alabama, like he's not LeGarrette Blount. You know,
no.
He's not going to score like 16 touchdowns like LeGarrette Blount did that one year or whatever, but he's also not going to catch like 2 passes. You know, he's going to be, I think he's going to be a better receiver than LeGarrette Blount, Sony Michel, some of these other guys were in this offense.
Well, the way that Bill kind of runs his offense, right? Like you have to be multiple, right? Like that's like the whole, like just even the phrase multiple came about because people were talking about New England. Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what side of the ball you play on, whether you're defense or offense. Bill expects you to be able to do a lot of different things. It's those type of things where, okay, you know that James White is a specialist there. Now, does that mean Damien Harris, as you said, is going to get somewhere like, is he going to get 10 receptions? Well, I don't know. Right. But like I would anticipate north of 20. Yeah. And I think 30, is an okay projection. It's probably a little optimistic. It's a no-brainer, you know, like Javonte Williams, Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert. These are guys like, give me Damien Harris. This guy is a special runner. And yeah, like, will he get a ton of passing work? Probably not. But again, it's like, man, just give me the guy that can play, you know? And I think this guy is an absolute, a really, really good player. And not just that, now with no Cam Newton there, man, the touchdown ceiling just goes sky high.
Mac Jones is taking over an offense that's not completely empty, like not bereft of options. And at this point, I think they could have a pretty decent attack this year, running the style that they want to run.
We talked about it a lot that Cam Newton, it's like, listen, he's just not the same player. You know, the injuries have obviously sapped a lot from his arm strength and all those type of things. And it was just a boring offense last year. No creativity whatsoever. They couldn't push the ball downfield. And it just, whatever Mac has given us here, it's like at the very least, we're more interested. We're more intrigued in this Patriots offense.
Yeah.
And let's be real. That's all that matters. Entertain me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Entertain me. That's all that matters.